Welcome to Miss LaFond's Story Corner. I'm Harper LaFond, and this is my first book critique. The feature text I have chosen for this book critique is The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. This is a book about a boy named Peter and his adventures on a snow-filled winter day. Peter has so much fun outside that he stays out all day playing in the snow. When it is time for him to come back inside, he spends the rest of the evening dreaming about his snowy adventures. Peter is overjoyed when he wakes up the next morning and sees that there is still plenty of snow on the ground to play in. I chose this book because it is nostalgic of the snow days I had as a child. The first lesson I have created is a kindergarten science lesson. In the book, Peter puts a snowball in his pocket to save for later. However, when Peter goes back to look in his pocket for the snowball, it's not there. The snowball, which is a solid, has melted and changed into a liquid. This lesson is an introduction to the different properties and states of matter. Prior to the activity, the teacher should introduce students to the terms solid and liquid. I've attached a video which talks about these two terms. Students will investigate the differences between solids and liquids, record their observations through writing and drawing, and share their observations with a partner. Students should discuss what makes a solid different from a liquid. The teacher should have several stations set up with different types of solids and liquids. The teacher should collect the students' observations and bring everyone back for a class discussion. The second lesson I've created is a second grade English language arts lesson. In the book, Peter has the best snowy day. He builds a snowman, makes snow angels, and spends the whole day out in the snow. This lesson's guiding question is, what is your idea of a perfect snowy day? This lesson will help students practice their writing and collaboration skills. The teacher should review using descriptive words such as adjectives and adverbs. And verbs. And each student will contribute to a class Padlet detailing his or her idea of a perfect snowy day. Students should be sure to use descriptive words in their posts. Students will then reply to 2 or more of their peers with a question, comment, or idea. Here's a link to the Padlet I created. As you can see, I already created a post with my idea of a perfect snowy day, and I also included a picture of my friends and I when we were in Rome and it snowed. Here's where students can click to add their own post on the Padlet. The next book I chose is Beagle, The Adventures of Beagle, the Unimaginary Friend by Dan Santat, and it's a story about the gifts of friendship and imagination. A small creature named Beagle patiently waits in the world of imaginary creatures for a child in the real world to imagine him into existence. After a period of patient waiting, Beagle finally takes matters into his own hands, leaving his world for the real world to find a friend. There, Beagle meets a little girl named Alice, and they quickly become the best of friends. They have wonderful adventures together and learn all about friendship and imagination in a world that so often takes these blessings for granted. The Girl Who Loved Wild Horses by Paul Goebel is a story about choices and transformation. The beautiful illustrations in this book reflect the strong connection between a young Native American girl and a herd of wild horses. One day, the main character gets lost with the horses in a storm and ends up living with them for a whole year until she is found by hunters. It is then that she must decide between living with her beloved herd of wild horses and living with her own tribe. In the end, she follows her heart and undergoes a beautiful transformation. Grandfather's Journey by Alan Say is a book about family, home, and belonging. Say tells the story of how his grandfather, who was born in Japan, journeyed to the United States. He married his childhood sweetheart, and together they raised their daughter in California. Eventually, they moved back to Japan, where he lived the rest of his days in peace, despite being touched by war. Say carries out his grandfather's unfulfilled wish when he visits California and falls in love with the place that was so near and dear to his grandfather's heart. Hey Al, written by Arthur Yorkins and illustrated by Richard Egolesky, is a story about a man named Al and his dog named Eddie. Al and Eddie are exhausted from working day in and day out. One day, they are invited to a magical island where they live a life of luxury. In the beginning, everything is perfect. However, things begin to go wrong when Al and Eddie start turning into birds. Al and Eddie escape the magical island and return back home, thankful for their cramped apartment and hectic lifestyle. Al and Eddie learn that the grass is not always greener on the other side and recognize that they are blessed to have each other in their life. The Man Who Walked Between the Towers by Mordecai Gerstein is a tribute to a man named Philippe Petit and many of the daring stunts he performed in New York City. Petit dreams of walking between the roofs of the Twin Towers just like he walked between the steeples of the Notre Dame Cathedral in France. Petit is so confident in his talents and abilities that on August 7th, 1974, he decides he's going to try it. He is going to walk between the Twin Towers, 1,340 feet in the air. But will he be able to complete, let alone survive, such a risky task? Radiant Child, the story of young artist Jean-Michel Basquiat by Javaca Steptoe, is a story detailing the early life and career of artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. The story begins with Basquiat as a child drawing pictures for his family and finishes with him as an adult creating art for the world to see. Throughout the book, we learn that Basquiat draws a lot of his inspiration from his mother, Matilda, the city, and the experiences he has had in his life. Ultimately, this story is one of struggle, perseverance, and believing in yourself to achieve your dreams. There are even a few pages at the end of the book with more information about Basquiat and his work. And finally, This Is Not My Hat is a story about a small fish who steals a hat from a big fish. Through engaging illustrations and a simple storyline, author and illustrator John Klassen tells the story of a mischievous fish who is certain he will not get caught for taking a hat that does not belong to him. I love the illustrations in this book, and it is such a cute story. So, thank you so much for watching. This has been my first book critique, and thank you.